gives to Jefferson, right elbow, Canner, hand off to Trey. Trey will take a 22-footer with Fareed all over him, and he hit it. Nice bucket for Trey Burke, his second.
The random highlight of the day came from Denver in April. Kind of sounded like it. Hope you're great. It's time for tip-off. A first look at our guys. Oh, my gosh. I've been reborn. It's tip-off. Pow. How are you? Hope you're doing great today. I'm all fired up. I had a wonderful day yesterday. I ran down to the open gym. What the Jazz have is just they've opened up the gym for the guys. It's totally voluntary. Not all of them are here yet, though most are, and they're going at it. They're playing high-level competition against other guys, and you can tell. And it's fun to see, and it was a first chance to see the guys, so I'll share some things. It's not, the most controlled setting or anything like that. It's an open gym, so I don't want to overplay, but it's still great to see these guys and things of that nature. Jazz mini plans came out for sale yesterday. What they've got 3 deals here. The value plan. If it works, I don't want to tell you how to spend your money, but the weekend plan is really cool. It's every Saturday and Friday, so you just decide you're going for weekends. There's the marquee matchup superstar plan, which is sick. It's opener against the Rockets. You get to see LeBron and Durant and Rose in November. Then you see Duncan in December, and you get the holidays off. You come back in January. You see Steph Curry, Blake Griffin. In January, February, you get Kobe. March, you get Carmelo and John Wall, and then LaMarcus Aldridge and Damian Lillard, and you close it out with Dirk in April. How good is that? And then they have one that if I were not David Locke radio voice and I had to buy my plan. Okay, so let's admit it. I would buy season tickets because I'm nuts and I would just want to be there all the time, and I'd want my set seat, and I'd want all the fringe benefits, and I'd want the exclusive access, and I'd want all that stuff. But let's say I didn't do that. Here's what I would do, and I don't know how exactly you do this. You'll have to, but they have the pick'em plan. So you choose 7 or more games to customize your perfect plan. See what I would do. If this was possible, is I would probably buy a 7-game pack for me and my buddies, and then I would buy, that's just pair, I'd buy 4 on another pick'em plan. I don't know how this works for me and my family. So, for example, I would go through the 17 Friday and Saturday games of the weekend plan and grab 7 of those. I'd probably in November go see the Mavericks and the Pelicans because I want to see Anthony Davis. Maybe the Clippers on that post-Thanksgiving, so now I'm at 3. In December, the post-Christmas game against the Sixers on that Saturday. Nice to see the team win. The Lakers on Friday the 16th, that's 5. We're in ski season then. It's harder for the kids to get out, but maybe see Jabari on the 28th Saturday and the Thunder on March and the Grizzlies in April. So I would buy an 8-game 4-pack for the family, and then I would go find 7 games in the schedule that are like the superstars that I would take with my buddies. That's probably the approach I would take. So, it's basically at some point I'd basically have season tickets. But that's the I don't know if that's how it really works. I think that would work. So we'll see. Thank you to everybody who has sent in their resumes. I have quite a collection here. I appreciate it. We'll continue to take resumes for the rest of the week on the internship for the Utah Jazz broadcast. Thank you very much to everybody. It's great to see these names and all the young talent that's out there. I look forward to working with a few of you and meeting more of you during the interview process. I sent out a tweet yesterday that I just think the reaction to it's interesting. So the tweet I sent out yesterday, trolling a little bit, but I think anyone who watches men's college basketball should like the WNBA if they could get over the simple fact they're watching women. It's a better game. And just to make sure, that's 140 characters. That's all I got. So here's the longer version of it. I actually had lunch with a good friend yesterday, and I said, hey, WNBA game 5. He and I, it's a long story, but and he says, I can't watch it. He says, the only women's sport I can watch is women's tennis. Otherwise, I'm watching an inferior product to the best product that's out there because they're not as fast or strong. And I said, okay, I don't disagree with you, but then why do you watch college football or men's college basketball? Because it's an inferior product. The inferior product angle is legit because women's game is not as good as the men's game, but it doesn't necessarily match to me. On that level, you should only watch the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, the best there is, because everything else is an inferior product. The women's game, I'm not getting into a debate of whether a men's high school team could beat a women's team or an AAU team. I don't care. I'm just talking about the game. And the women's game is actually now is high paced. Phoenix scored, I don't know if they finished over 100 last night, but in a shorter game, they scored 48 in the first half. So you get your scoring, they got your shooting. You don't have your dunking. You've got great ball movement. You've got a basic open floor offense. You've got a quicker game because the shot clock's better. And you get more higher percentage of jump shots made. I like shooting. So I think it's a better game. Okay, that's the basis of the comment. Okay, it's inferior to the best, as is men's college, and then I think it's a better game. I like it. You can choose not to. What I think is really interesting is when you present to a male, I'm pissing people off here and I don't really care, the idea that they're supposed to like a woman's sport, the reaction is interesting. I got one, in fairness, I got one guy who gave a great response, and I'll try to. But I got another tweet. This is just, I ran down my mentions today, who said, well, anything you say now has zero validity. Actually, what he said was, well, anything you say has zero validity now. Really? So because I mentioned that you might like a woman's sport, I now have zero validity on anything else. Interesting. Did someone steal your phone and prank you? I know you would never seriously tweet something like that. I just gave you, I thought, a pretty good argument. Scott Crichton is the one who I think gave. Oh no, he actually was. He actually wrote, of all truly ignorant and ridiculous things you've ever said, this may be your worst assessment. Completely silly. I would like to know the last time you attended a college basketball game in the flesh. Stick to what you do best. Nothing. Just because I said I like the WNBA. Wow. Way to go, Scott. Peter Harrison with a very nice, how is it exactly better? I wish I had enough time, so I just explained what my thought was. This is, they can't even dunk the ball. Okay, you're right. As I did it as the number one Utah Jazz fan, I stopped following Locked On Sports. He stopped following me because I said I like the WNBA. See, I got a fair response. Judd Peck said, by the way, that for a guy who loves tennis, and I can't I love tennis and watch men's tennis equally. I can't watch it. Women's tennis, I think, is the best women's sport that's out there. Really, women's golf is probably what we should watch. It's much more comparable to the game out there. And then I actually thought that there was. If you like basketball and don't like Diana Taurasi, you haven't watched her. Frankly, she's just she's terrific. So anyway, one guy wrote, and I don't know where it is anymore, that he just said, hey, you know what? I don't have a connection. I think it was here. It was Zach Clegg wrote, and I thought this was a great point. Regardless of whether the men's college game is bad, there's an emotional connection to the team, keeps you entertained. Exactly. Bingo. Gender aside, I have zero investment or connection to the players or teams. The same reason I don't watch EuroLeague. Don't follow women's college game. Don't have a team here in Salt Lake. No reason to watch. That, bingo. Bingo. Perfect. Great work by Zach Clegg right there. Because that's it. That I said. If you watch the men's college game, if you're really honest about it, you watch it because there's a connection to a team, or you have picks in a bracket, or you're gambling. Right? That's the only reason. You're not watching Ohio State, Michigan men's college basketball for the beauty of the game, unless you went to Ohio State or Michigan, or you have money on the game. You're really not. All right. What else? Open gym. It was so fun. I'm going back today. I was like, I was back. I was just it was basketball, and it was in a gym, and it was our guys, and it was seeing Jeremy again and seeing Derek and talk to Derek briefly. He's doing great. He looks unbelievable. He's just so big. He really looks. I was sitting talking with Kevin O'Connor. Oh, how cool was that? Like, just love this stuff. I sat with Kevin O'Connor throughout the whole open gym. Just sat there talking to KOC for a little while and seeing how he is and finding out what he's been doing and his world and all that kind of stuff, which was just, I love Kevin. So that was really cool. And to me, Derek looked like a 2-year project. His body looked better last year. I said he's bigger because I've lost weight. So he says he's skinnier, but he's mammoth. There was one play, I don't even know who the guy. I mean, there's just a bunch of people there, right? So some local guys, and he put a shoulder into somebody, and I remember I thought to myself, oh, that poor guy, when he rolls over to hit the alarm tomorrow morning, it's really gonna hurt because he just boom. Derek made 2 of the best passes I've ever seen him make. One of them was pick and roll, right side, or kind of angle right. The ball handler went right, and Derek caught it at the free throw line in traffic and immediately swung it to the left corner for a 3. It was beautiful, beautiful play. And then let me look at my notes. Sorry. What was the other one? Left block favors passes to the right corner to Novak. So Favors is on the left block, gets and flips the pass to the right corner, cross the corner for Novak. It was beautiful, beautiful play for Novak. It's a fun game to watch. They're playing. They had a shot clock up for a little while at 14, and then another times at 10. These guys were just running. I mean, they're just trying to get in shape, right? So Derek, 2 fabulous passes. Trevor Booker is here. I really, Trevor, if we're really experts, like supposed experts like myself, are honest about it, on a guy like Trevor Booker, I know who he was, kind of. I probably looked at him in a draft. He plays at Washington. We play him twice. I would guess he probably played a grand total of 36 minutes against us last year. I'm probably going to make a total fool of myself, and I'm going to look this up right now and find out that, that's not true. In addition, if I was to give you guys a little insight on it, by the time we play Washington on the 4th game of a road trip this year, we play Washington on the 1st game of a road trip. I may never remember that game. I couldn't tell you. I don't have the capability to tell you a single thing about our game against Washington last year without reading it. I'd have to have some. That's why I do so much work preseason. Is I got to have that in my notes. I couldn't tell you if we won or lost in Washington last year, and I couldn't tell you a single thing about that game if I was to be frank with you right now, unless I prep it and know it beforehand. I just don't have that memory recall in a season of 82 games. So we saw Trevor Booker for a grand total of 30 minutes last year, and he scored 6 points against us, had 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He played 15 minutes in each game. We lost in January against them and beat them in March. I don't have a great recall. But I was impressed. I was surprised. So without that great recall, I was really surprised. And I would actually say kind of some of the research I did where there was a comparison between Millsap and Booker. I thought I saw that. So the things that surprised me on Booker yesterday, far more athletic than I had perceived. He's not playing all NBA players. He blocked a few shots, which I didn't perceive. I mean, he's 6'8", right? So he's a 6'8", 240-pound power forward. I'm thinking to myself, Corliss Williamson, Byron Houston, who was really 6'4", but those kind of plodding big men who just kind of not at all. Tough as hell from every report about him, but also an ability to move that I didn't really know about. There was he got a rebound and led a break. He had that led to a Rodney Hood 3. He had a block of Ian Clark. He did some neat stuff. I think he's going to be a real fan favorite, actually, which I think's nice. We haven't had a lot of veterans we've decided to like. We liked Marvin because he was such a great guy, but I think we're really going to like this guy in the way that he plays and how hard he plays, and I think he's going to become a little bit of a fan favorite, which is nice because he's. I'll tell you what, if what I saw yesterday is how he plays, he's going to force his way onto the floor. He just does things right, which is probably what he did in Washington, right? They had Nene and Gortat, and he played a lot when Nene was hurt, but otherwise he got himself 14 to 17 minutes a game because that's what he forced that upon the coaches, and I think he'll probably do the same for us if from just a little bit I saw yesterday. The other note I would have, the Favors passes were awesome. The other note I was intrigued, these all can change. They're one day, it's not formed. Again, let me just say it's open gym, right? Like, you don't want to take too much out of this, but it's all I got, and I think you're dying for little tidbits. I again, go back to when I watched Rodney Hood at Duke. He just does stuff right, and there's two things that jumped out at me about Rodney Hood yesterday. In his ability to play in traffic, come off the pick and roll in traffic and make a pass. He's going to have to make shots, right? We can get into all the other intricacies, but if he doesn't make shots, it doesn't matter. I thought that. And the other one that I had noticed, maybe because I didn't see Summer League in person, and you're just watching on TV, but in person is Hood's pretty light on his feet. He doesn't have a bunch of junk in the trunk. He's a long, lanky guy who's got a little bounce to him. Not necessarily, but if you're going to play the 2-3, you've really got to be able to move, and there's a body type that generally you have to have. He fits that. I thought he was a little bit more base heavy, shall we say, and I thought that was going to be a problem. It's curious to me watching him how he got to 22, 23, but on the draft, it's not crazy. I mean, if you go back, I actually pulled up the other day. We'll go through my notes, clear out, and I found my, knowing the draft was big, I had pulled Chad Ford's top 100 in the Draft Express before the season started, and I had a chart of when they played so I could watch them, which I didn't do as well as I'd hoped, but best laid plans of mice and men. But I looked, and he was actually 21 on Chad Ford's opening board, so it's not crazy. Let's not, like, we didn't get a top 10 talent that suddenly slipped to 20, but I like him. I think that he's got some things he can do and look like he could play. So, it's going to be interesting to see. There's just a huge jump that these guys have to take and how they have to play and what they got to do differently, and they got to be in great shape to do it. If they're going to play fast, you watch these games, and obviously it's ragged, but they're going up and down, and you watch, and then inevitably, they'll go back up and down 2 or 3 times pretty quickly, and then on the 4th time somebody walks the ball up. They're tired. Not because they're out of shape, just because they're sprinting 90 feet. And when that happens, inevitably somebody pulls off the gas, and that's what you're trying to a little bit avoid. If you have any questions, throw them up. 2 notes: Chauncey Billups is retiring. Pretty incredible career path on Chauncey. If you really look back at Chauncey's career, what is so incredible is, he gets drafted by Patino and ends up being shunned and gone, and gets traded to Denver, his hometown team. He lasts, I think, 58 games in Denver over a season, goes to Minnesota, and then it's not until Chauncey's, he's drafted in 97. It's not till 2001-2002 he has a good year. It's worth kind of remembering also, by the way. He's 6'3", he had a great body. But Chauncey's opening year, he shoots 38%. His second year, he shoots 39%. His next year, he got hurt. He shot 34%. He couldn't shoot the 3. I mean, he was really a mess by the time he was done in Denver. And then he goes to Detroit, and it all clicks in, and he becomes, I think, a Hall of Famer. I think with those titles and his run of 18 points and all those assists, and becomes he's a brilliant free throw shooter, becomes a 40% three-point shooter, and it's just, he was a gamer, right? Remember, by the way, in that first year before he goes to Denver, he actually spends a little time in Toronto, I think. If I have to remember correctly, but if I remember correctly, by the time he hits Minnesota, He's played in Boston, Toronto, Denver, then Minnesota, then Detroit. So 03, 04, Detroit is when he gets out there. I think he tears up a knee, loses a season. I mean, it's really just you know, quit on 2 or 3 times before as a number 3 pick of a draft. It's worth it's worth remembering. I think he was a 2-year college player at Colorado, and so when you try to figure out where he fits in the whole who is he similar to progression type of things. Sad news the other day I wanted to mention. Marvin Barnes was kind of one of the great characters of the ABA and a little bit of the NBA. Tom Masalki tells great stories of him, passed at an early age. It's sad because the St. Louis Spirit is trying to put together a reunion, and he was going to, with Moses and all that great team that was featured in 30 for 30. Ron Boone's been invited to it, and he was supposed to be attending that. Now, obviously, will not attend that. Final interesting news: Denver's an interesting team to me this year. Danilo Gallinari, the key to that, but Gallinari rips the legendary orthopedic surgeon Stedman and Vail, who, it's interesting locally because Cooley in Park City and Stedman and Vail are thought of the 2 best. And Danilo, in a European paper, said Stedman, it is clear that if I could go back, I would not go to the Stedman clinic. I will write a book on my last year and a half and some of the things never told. But it's better not to talk about that. I just say that 1 month after surgery, Stedman said that he would not work anymore. I made the wrong choice, but he was considered one of the best surgeons, and his clinic was within an hour drive from Denver. Now I see what happened to Giuseppe Rossi, Westbrook, Vaughn, and many others, maybe not so famous, that went to his clinic. Wow! It's interesting. He lays out a bunch of names there. That's a bitter guy who's clearly upset about the physical therapy work that he had done in Vail. Gallinari's a beautiful player. I've loved him. I thought he, not James Harden, was going to be the next major explosion. All right, we've got a bunch of questions today, which is awesome. So let me run through them. This is going to be a long one today. You like to think outside the box. Forgetting marketing, do you think there would be any validity to sending Dante to D-League to get early experience for a month or so? Do the seasons match up for that? Your thoughts? I think that we probably need to temper the expectations on Dante Phillips, so the idea of sending him to the D-League is not outrageous. But the way the roster is constructed, I think there's great value to having him have the whole experience of an NBA season. D-League starts November 17th, so the way you could do something is, let's say, we open with that quick little run of Houston, Dallas back-to-back, then Phoenix at the Clippers, home for 2, and then we go on that, I think, I'm looking at the schedule over here to the left, 5-game road trip, and we come back from that 5-game road trip right when the D-League opens. So if after that 10-game stretch he's really just, overwhelmed, maybe at that point you could decide early on. The other one, you'd like him, I think, to experience the road trips. I think you want him to experience what it's like, that 6-game mother from December 13th to December 23rd when we're not home. I think you want him to go and feel that. So there's a whole feeling of the pace of the season, understanding it. Trey's going to be a different player this year. He's going to be in better shape. He's going to be stronger because he's just been through it and understands. I talked to Trey a lot last year. He was just stunned by what was taking place to his body and how it was, how he had no lift. That was the one he kept talking about. It's like, I can't even dunk right now. And he's, will he lose the lift 20 games into the season again? Maybe, but on the other end, I think you'll see him be a little bit better. Stephen Ronsley, while Neto looks like another good asset, do you think that is what he ends up being, or does he really have a future with the Jazz? Hard to see him being in the rotation someday with Burke and Exum on board. Best case scenario, you got 3 really good ones. Worst case scenario, they're all average. Middle case scenario is that Burke ends up being this, wants a bunch of money. You can't pay him. You've got security. Exum becomes a star. Burke wants another opportunity somewhere else. Neto fits in behind Exum. A lot of options, right? I think that's what Neto brings, but I do think we'll see him here. I think that the plan is for him to be here. The plan is also, though, you got to let it. It doesn't do any good to have him here now. If he comes this year, he sits behind Exum's development and Burke. while probably not being dramatically behind those two, which doesn't really work very well for him. So let him go earn his money in Spain and play as a more focal point on a team in Europe. He gets a better experience out of that. And then bring him in the next year, stagger his salaries, and see where these other guys are. In theory, a year from now, you still kind of have the same issue of how he gets time, but maybe that will play itself out in its own fashion. Sorry, the computer is pausing there. Good old Clint Peterson, good old loyal Jazz fan. Seems though I recall hearing that players have initiated workouts together. Is this correct? Impressive. If so, any knowledge, I guess, as to who played the cast? I don't know exactly on that. I think as much as anything, the Jazz opening the gym and getting a bulk of guys so that the guys know they get a good game, right? So that, Derek's in town, and then if they know that Trevor's coming and Steve Novak's coming, he can shoot, by the way, and then they know that, it's a much safer, more controlled environment. The other thing is a lot of these guys will play a lot of summer games against college kids, which is good, but those guys have now gone back to school. So traditionally, NBA players are stuck a little bit in September. Whatever pickup games or open gym games they were having wherever they're from, they drop off considerably when colleges start. And so this is probably a better way. And if you can organize enough guys, and if the word gets out that there's an open gym, it's a good opportunity. And you probably get some guys you wouldn't think of, either just guys who are from around here, or maybe even, there's some free agent guys who find out, hey, Utah's having an open gym. Maybe, let me go see if I can just get in on those games a little bit. I don't know how it all works. It's pretty free-flowing. I think they just try to structure it time-wise so that everybody kind of knows when it's available and what's there. It's hard to imagine this Jazz team winning any more than 25 games they did last year, but they should be much more fun to watch. Where do you see their record from J.R. Stewart? I was actually talking to Quinn about this the other day. On one level, I can see how this team improves a great deal, that they have a different level of coaching. They may play a system that adapts better to their talent. I think, we were still kind of so post-centric with two guys I'm not sure were great post players yet in Favors and Cantor. That hopefully we open up the floor and floor spacing, which should help Trey and Gordon and Alec a little bit. And, I think we're not as good a team, frankly, as last year, because I do believe that having the veteran presence of Marvin and Richard Jefferson is important to a roster, and I think we're a little thin in that kind of stuff. So I think when things go wrong this year, they're going to really go wrong. I think 3-game losing streaks are going to become 6, and 6-game losing streaks are going to become 8, and 8-0 runs are going to become 12-0 runs, and little things like that, just where the veteran kind of knows how to temper that, but these guys have to learn that. Maybe we'll see Derek and Gordon showing that. They've been around long enough, around enough veterans, maybe they're ready for that. But on the other end, I can see the improvement. But then the flip side of it is, so you can improve, but you still have to win. It's a zero, it's a win-loss game. So the other angle is there's 15 teams in the Western Conference. Are we the 15th? Probably better than that. Are we the 14th? I think we're probably. Are we the 13th? Maybe. Are we the 12th? Maybe. Well, go look traditionally at what the 13th, 12th, and 13th teams win in the Western Conference, and you're right around that 28 to 32 mark, and that might be where we are. I just, it's part of a process of development. I'm not. I think it's gonna be hard for us because if you, I guess the best way to say it is if you get your enjoyment out of getting a W, going to bed, yeah, we got a W. I think that's going to be hard. But watching Rodney develop and watching Dante and watching Derek take a larger role and take Gordon this and watch the system and the way they play and surprise a few people and, the nights where the ball really moves and we play with a pass and it really pops, I think are going to be the nights where you kind of see where this thing is going. On the Jazz roster, who do you think or heard have made the biggest improvement additions to their games through the summer? I'm not there yet, Billy. I'll try to give you answers when I have them. I don't have that answer. I apologize. I don't have that answer. I think it's a big year for Alec and Ennis, frankly, on their development. Does Greg Monroe, as an unrestricted free agent this year, raise or lower Cantor's price? I think lowers it because he's a higher ranked free agent. Gordon Hayward lowered Lance Stevenson's price a little bit, right? Had Lance Stevenson been the only one out there, he probably gets paid a little bit more than Gordon Hayward. But somebody chose Gordon Hayward for his kind of, I think, level demeanor at a higher level than Lance Stevenson. Might not be the best example, but if you look, I mean, sure, everybody takes a tier. You tier your free agents, and there's a tier 1 tier. And if you go back and look at the free agent manifesto I did last year, the tiers came very true to market value, right? Gordon and the tier free agents were Carmelo and LeBron, and there was one other high-level small forward. I can't remember what it was, the free agent. They got paid a buttload. Maybe it was Wade. And then there was the second tier, which was Gordon and Stevenson, and they got overpaid, but they got paid about the same in that tier. And then there was the third tier, and they got paid. And in the point guard tier, there was Bledsoe up top and Lowry up top, and they all are getting paid about the same if Bledsoe would ever take a reasonable deal. And so I think you see, you're going to tier it, right? And if there's no Greg Monroe and Cantor ends up on the top tier, he still gets paid. So I think the fact that it will probably drop Cantor to a tier 2 or tier 3 big hurts his value a little bit. I will be surprised if the Jazz are able to get extensions done with Cantor or Alec Burks. Cantor, because I just think a big man and his agent doesn't have a lot of clients, and so therefore he's gonna, this is a really important deal for him. He can't afford to get caught underneath at all the market value. I think they'll have a hard time coming to agreement, particularly Cantor. I don't think has shown yet that you'd be willing to invest a great deal in him. So I think there'll be a disconnect there. And then Alec will be hard to get done because of the cap hold issue. Same thing happened with Gordon, where if you sign Alec now and he has his whatever, let's call him $10 million. I don't know if that's what he is, but let's call him a $10 million player. That's a $7 million grab of cap space that you're better off paying a year from now. Now, you also got burned a little bit playing that game last year with Gordon. I don't know what year Alec's going to have. I don't know if Alec becomes that player, but maybe Alec becomes DeMar DeRozan, and then he's going to get paid. All right, that is our tip-off today, a long one. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you soon.